Hi there. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Beyond the Frame. I'm your host, Joe Parente, and I've learned some of my most valuable lessons, life lessons, from my favorite TV shows and movies. Sure, these works of art entertain us, offer us an escape, and even tap into our emotions, but there's one E word that's often overlooked.
Education. If viewed from a different perspective, these stories and their characters can help us learn and develop as human beings. I'm your co-host, Ryan Vanderhei, and it's our mission with this podcast to share that unique perspective with you so that hopefully you can grow from the show.
The topic of today's discussion is the movie We Live in Time, and a specific topic, which is, small question. What is love? Little tiny one. As always, there will be a ton of spoilers.
Yes.
So proceed with caution. And please leave us a like, a rating, or a review. We really appreciate that. Wherever you listen, it does help our show. Shall we begin?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
So, Ryan, I've been thinking,
Okay.
what is love? Yeah.
The age-old question.
Age-old question.
Thanks.
Yeah, folks have been trying to tackle that one for a whole long time, and we're gonna take a swing at it
Okay, I love that.
in this episode.
I love it.
And so, within the context of this movie, I want to tell you a story of maybe a definition of love, if you will.
Story time.
Okay.
Okay.
So think of this as potential definition of love, and just see how it feels for you.
Got it.
Imagine that you are in a relationship, and you've got your partner, and things are beautiful. You have a good life together.
Okay.
A really, really lovely life together. You might even have kids. And for any of you listening, whatever that partnership would be, but you have a good life. You might have dogs, whatever. It's going really well.
Okay.
And you've had years together, and it's given you time to form real love that it transcends, the sexuality is there, what have you,
lust, yeah.
but then that it ebbs a bit, but what grows in that place, if you will, is love, is real care, is all that time together.
Okay.
One day your partner comes home and says, I've fallen in love with someone. Real love is saying, what can I do to help?
Oh. Woo-wee.
I've thrown that out there to people before, and I never get a neutral response. That's not a neutral response that you're having.
Nope.
And
Quite a visceral.
and I thought about that when looking at this movie. And there are some particular scenes that we're going to go over from this movie. And it made me think about that, because look, there are all kinds of romantic movies out there and quote unquote love stories, and do they really, how can we say if there's really love or not? But if you do see some particular types of actions taken, to me, those are indications that, hey, there might be some real love there.
Yeah. Deeper than surface level.
Correct.
I love, first of all, what an amazing question. I can imagine why you get the responses that you do from that.
Well,
I pose that to the viewers. What do you think about that? But I want to two-part this.
Sure.
I have an example I want to talk about of a show that we are both very, very fond of.
Okay.
That I think really addresses this perfectly before I give my personal response.
Okay.
Industry.
Ooh.
We just saw the finale.
We did.
We watched it together. The heartbreaking scene between Rob and Yasmin, where she goes up to him.
Yep.
They run off in the orchard together.
Yep.
They have sex.
Yep.
She says, I love you. He says, I love you. They go to dinner that night. And she drops the bomb. I'm engaged to Kit Harington's character.
Yep.
What a brilliant scene where they're at the dinner table, everybody disappears but them, and
Yep.
he looks at her. She says, "I'm sorry," and he looks at her and he says, "What? I understand."
Yeah. That was real love.
That's the love you're talking about.
That is the love. That was brilliant. Great way to illustrate it.
Immediately when you said that, I was like, oh, because
Yeah.
I've watched that scene multiple times because it's just so well done.
It's so well done.
And there's so much beauty to me, to get into my personal response, in making that personal sacrifice for that person. That's real love. They say,
is.
the famous quote goes, "If you love them, set them free."
Yeah.
And I think this movie obviously does an amazing job of illustrating that, because Andrew Garfield's character is faced with a dilemma. But when I think about that question that you posed, I do feel that it'd be really hard. It'd be really difficult. It'd be a very, very hard pill to swallow. But yeah, if you really love that person, I just want you to be happy.
You want them to have what they want.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Right.
If it comes at the expense of me, I love you. So I want you to have what it is that you need. And that's what Rob does for Yasmin, certainly.
He does, and he does it quickly.
Yeah,
I mean,
in a split second.
because there is a real life example. I didn't plan on bringing this up, but there is a real life example within my own family of what I think was real love, but it took some time to kind of go okay, because people can be very upset. It was a situation very much like what I just spelled out.
Sure. Okay.
And yes, of course, there's going to be pain, and you aren't just going to turn around and go, "How can I help?" That would almost be bizarre.
Yeah, that would be psychopathic.
Yeah, there'd be a few pieces missing. Exactly. But to get there, and I think again that's why I thought of this story, if you will, this definition of love when I watched this movie, because to me there were scenes that that's not quite there. It's not quite there, and there were scenes where I just thought, wow, that is real love. I put myself in their position.
Sure.
And that's, part of the foundation of this show is learning by putting yourself in the positions of these characters and feeling out, could I do that? Could I do what could I do what Rob did to hear that news that this woman who just told him that she loves him. And I think he did love her
At the time.
clearly. Yeah. He wasn't able to react the way he did because he didn't give a shit. Excuse me. He didn't even care.
Yeah.
He cared quite a bit.
Sure. Absolutely.
He cared enough to go, I understand.
Yeah.
I get it. Wow.
And
profound.
Very profound. And I think to your point of what you said, it took him some time. There was the initial shock factor and the initial reaction of, you can't do that to us, or
right.
As we all would, like you said, if there wasn't that initial, there'd be something wrong.
That's right.
Screws loose, but
it would be weird.
It's completely acceptable. Your initial reaction and response would be, I don't think so. What the F? Like, why would you put me through this?
Absolutely.
How could you do this to me?
Absolutely.
It's only when you take a step back and you're able to have some time to digest it.
Yeah.
That you can come back at it and look at it from that perspective of real love.
Absolutely true.
And that's what we see happen with Andrew Garfield. It takes a little bit of time.
That's right. But he got there.
Yeah.
So and yeah, that scene in Industry is amazing because he got there within the same scene. That's pretty damn good.
Which I think says to me that he kind of knew all along.
And we did talk about that. And I think so too. And he saw the world that she was in, and he saw that the guy that she was getting engaged to, who used to be the King of the North, by the way.
Yeah.
Kit Harington. Yes, he was. Yeah. Sorry. But he saw that was her world, and that's where she belonged in a way, and he was probably going to end up in Silicon Valley.
And he knew that's what she needed.
He knew that's what was best for her.
Especially because we see the scene, and I don't want to get... We'll button this here soon.
Okay.
Because this is about We Live in Time and not
True.
Industry.
True. People are like, why are they talking about Industry?
Yeah.
What's Industry?
If you haven't seen it, my God. But
yeah, my God.
The uncle has that conversation with her that leads her to do all
yes,
this. Where
true.
he says, like, I protect my family.
That's right.
And it's the family we choose.
Yes.
And so she puts the dots together and says,
Yes,
if I marry Kit,
that's right,
I'm marrying into this family where I can be protected.
That's right.
Where she's very vulnerable at the time. Rob It speaks a lot to his character.
Boy, doesn't it?
I liked him. The amount of compassion
Yes,
and love I had for Rob in that moment.
me too.
I always kind of liked
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, but that
But when
sealed
you
the
get
deal.
there, it's like, man, this is my guy right here.
Absolutely true.
Love this guy.
And I hope they keep him for the next season, season 4.
Okay. I don't
Yeah?
want to get too far ahead.
Yeah, because we are
Stop me
talking a
if
lot
I'm
of
jumping.
industry. It's okay. Go ahead.
Did you feel that way for Andrew when he what's his character's name?
It is it's Tobias.
Tobias, yes.
Yeah.
That's why I couldn't
Tobias and
remember.
Almut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what lovely names. But Tobias, did you feel that? Did you feel the same way you felt about Rob for Tobias? Did you think it was
Yep,
okay?
I did.
Me too.
I did. I fell in love with both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think I fell in love with him a little bit more, and I'm saying that as a straight man, just because I thought he was just they were both beautiful.
Yeah,
God,
of
what
course.
actors! I mean,
Yeah.
it is
what a perfect
as an
pair.
aspiring one myself, my lord.
Yeah, what
they're
a
just
perfect pair.
they are really fantastic chemistry.
Sure.
Beautiful subtleties with both of them. Just always appropriate. I thought I did. So why don't we just jump into some scenes?
I'd love to.
and look at them through that particular paradigm, if you will.
Absolutely.
One scene is when Tobias voices his concern to Almut after they've been going out for a while that he wants kids. And he knows that she doesn't. And he says he's bringing this up now because he'd rather have an uncomfortable conversation now rather than a catastrophic one later.
Of course.
She doesn't take it too well, you might say.
Yeah. Yeah, she has quite a
Wow, her reaction was strong, and
Yes.
and I had to temper my own reaction and just think, now wait a minute, she's been extremely clear with him from the get-go. It's not as though she was kind of tiptoeing around it. She let him know, this is how it is for me. And also, we didn't quite appreciate it yet, although there were clues. She's a very driven woman. She was really very passionate about cooking, and you learned later she was a competitive ice skater.
It's always been
Ice
in her
skating,
blood,
man.
yeah.
That's hard. That's rough.
Yeah, the
And
dedication.
the drive in someone to do that. I mean, the implication to me was Utah Olympics. Salt Lake City. She had a big meet in Salt Lake City.
Right.
So it told you something about her character, and how strongly she reacted meant to me that it did get in there, that it was painful for her. But it was also, he said, because I think I might be falling in love with you.
Right. What a powerful moment.
And how she reacts, I actually thought he didn't get angry. He didn't yell. He just turned and walked. And so I thought there isn't quite love there yet. And so I agreed with him that he was on the precipice of it. And I wondered, did she love him and that's why she had such a strong reaction? Or was it more like a, how dare you? I already told you, I was very clear, and I have these ambitions and things I want to do, and now you're just going to tread on them?
Yeah.
And now you want kids? It's almost like, you're changing the contract.
Sure.
And so I thought that scene was still painful.
Of course.
It still hurt. Which led to the next one.
Can I
But
Can I
please,
butt in there?
yeah, I don't want to jump too fast.
I think with that scene, at first when I watched it and I went and saw it with my girlfriend and we talked about it afterwards, it wasn't believable at first to us.
It was or was not?
It was not. Her reaction.
Ooh, interesting.
It seemed unwarranted. It seemed like here's this kind, caring person.
And then
who's
we had a
coming to you with
volcano
humility,
blow.
who's saying, yeah. So you wonder, I was left wondering what was going on in her head at the time. And it's interesting you mentioned there, she love him? I didn't think about it from that perspective. Was she already falling? And the fact that he was bringing an uncomfortable topic that might lead to them not,
That's right.
as we see, not being together. And so she had a very visceral reaction to it, which, again, like I said at the beginning, when I first saw it, I was going, would she react that way? I don't know about that.
I hear you. And initially, when that scene happened, I didn't think so. But it's after we learned more about her that, to me, that scene retrospectively made more sense, and her reaction made more sense.
That's fair.
And I also think about when you really care about something and something goes haywire, you don't have a neutral response.
Sure.
And so the fact that she did respond, I was just questioning, though, was it more about her ambition or was it more about,
The love.
yeah,
Yeah, that's fair. And I think, like you said about him, he was coming to her in that moment because he was on the precipice of falling for her. And so
yes,
before we really fall here, before we go basically at a point of no return,
right.
let's have this difficult conversation
Yes.
now. And I
Yes.
think that makes me like him more. I relate
Me
to
too.
that more
Yeah,
because I do that in my own life. I
Good
want
for
to have
you.
those difficult conversations
Absolutely.
early as possible
I'm with you on
to
that.
save us the. It's going to be way harder down the road.
I'm with you that. And look how hard it was for him to say it.
Sure.
It was hard for him to say it. And he was really letting her know of his dream. Now, granted, he didn't say that earlier. But the impression I just had was maybe he was just seeing how this was going and also feeling out how important it is because, speaking from personal, I don't have kids, but I have had partners which inspired that in me. Like I've been with partners who've made me think, oh, I'd like to be a dad.
Wow.
Whereas just on my own, it hadn't, when I was younger, I didn't think like, I want to be a dad. When I'd hear my guy friends saying they wanted to be fathers, I'd think, wow, that's fascinating. I was like, what does that feel like?
Yeah.
Because that little bomb or whatever didn't go off in me.
Sure.
But it was inspired later by women I went out with. One woman I went out with for years told me she was already done. If she'd met me earlier, she would have wanted to have kids with me.
Wow.
And that was, to me, that was like heart melty stuff.
Yeah, that's very
That was
moving.
one of the most beautiful things I'd been told by a partner.
Sure, absolutely.
And so that's where I could see for Tobias in the movie getting to that point where maybe it was a little dream, little tiny dream. And the more he got to know her and love her or feel that he was falling in love with her, he realized, wait a minute, she brings this out in me.
I think that's a very, very interesting point that you make there because I think I relate to that a lot.
Okay.
I think that the current
Do tell.
partner that I'm with, my current girlfriend, I do feel that strongly. I know I've always been someone who's really wanted to be a father, and she's been the opposite where I think she wants to be a mother, but it's not as fiery.
Okay.
It's not like a part of her fiber of her being. Like if she
Okay.
wasn't, I think she'd probably be okay.
Okay.
And we've had discussions at length about it, but when you're with someone that you love so much and you see them in a different light, in a different way, it does inspire something. It does create that spark.
Agreed.
And to where she, I think now, is more inclined to have that and to be a mother, hopefully because of the foundation that we've set as partners.
Good to hear.
Which is very moving and profound.
That's a beautiful thing.
Being with her makes me want to be a father more, if that makes sense.
Well, then this must have been a very interesting movie for the two of you.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, we saw it together.
And you saw it together, and I can see why you talked about it afterwards.
Sure.
And because I would think there were scenes that were incredibly poignant
Absolutely.
for both of you. So that makes me want to segue into the next one.
Let's do it.
After Tobias leaves, he then follows in the pizza man.
Okay, I got something to say here. Go ahead.
And I thought, oh my God, we're going to have a Jerry Maguire, you complete me scene.
Yeah.
I mean, there was that like an homage kind of thing?
Sure,
I was wondering.
Sure.
And I'm so glad he didn't say you complete me. I was,
Yeah.
of course he wasn't going to.
Right.
But what he did say, I was really moved by. I realized that I was looking at the future instead of looking at what was right in front of me. You.
Huge.
Wow.
Huge.
But Annie also pointed out, and you were rude. You know,
I love
which
that you
I
said
like
that.
that.
Yes.
I like that because he was right.
Yeah, he
and
was very
and
right.
look, you want to be real with the people you love, right?
Yeah.
So he was being real with her.
Yeah.
I was again. I fell a little bit more in love with him
Yeah.
when he did that, and so did she. And you saw the look on her face and how it changed very quickly.
Yeah.
With what few words he had to say.
Yeah.
I thought it was a fascinating choice to make it. He kind of sneaks in like a Trojan horse kind of thing.
Yeah, you kinda-
you know, it was
like,
a
what
really
the heck are you
fascinating
doing here?
choice
Yeah.
to have that. Like, does that mean she wouldn't have let him in? That they weren't, like,
Yeah.
why did he have to slide in that way?
Yeah.
I thought that was a fascinating choice.
Right.
But more importantly, and to the point of this show, to me that did show he had already fallen in love with her.
Yeah, you're too far gone.
And if she doesn't want to have kids, and we saw that, he's like, okay, I want you.
Yeah.
And look, listen to me. Look here, Ryan. Part of the beauty of that was him giving up a dream, if you will.
Sure.
Because look, it's just kids are an abstraction. They're an idea. It seems like that would be something great. And it's like, well, if I have to give up my dream, and some people are not willing to give up dreams. And he's like, no, I'd rather have you.
Yeah. If it means that I keep you,
Yeah.
it's worth it.
And I think she saw that.
Yeah. She saw him making the effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a great scene to bring up. That's a very powerful point.
And what impact did that scene have for you?
I think it spoke again to what we talked about at the beginning, the question you posed about what is real love, and if your partner came to you and said that they had this dream, let's say in this scenario, and your entire life up until this point, what are they, early 30s in the film?
Yeah.
You've dreamt your whole life of being a father. It's the only thing you've ever wanted, more than anything. And then you meet someone, and you fall so deeply in love with this person that you're willing to sacrifice your life goal, your life dream. How monumental is that?
Huge.
Huge.
And you know what would be a surefire sign that it's genuine love? That there would be no bitterness whatsoever in giving up that dream.
Sure.
That you lay that down and you say thank you and you walk away from that dream. You walk away from that dream with no bitterness.
Yes, it's important that you don't hold that over someone's head.
Correct.
Later on.
Because that's what we call manipulation.
Yeah.
Right.
In a fight down the road. Hey, remember, I gave up my...
Exactly.
You know,
right.
you could
right.
use that as
hey,
ammo.
That's
so
and
worst.
that to me is not real love.
100%. You're not doing it for... We talked about this in our last episode we did with Breaking Bad, but you're not doing it for a response. You're not doing it for the outcome.
Right.
You're doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You're doing it because you love the person.
That's right.
It.
That's right.
There are no... I'm
That's
not
right.
getting points here. I don't have one up on you. I don't have ammo for later.
Right. It's not strategy.
No. It's simply put, I feel so strongly about you
Yep.
that I am willing to make this sacrifice.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Tobias, what a guy.
Oh,
We all couldn't just... I'm sure all the ladies watching, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. But all the ladies in the theater, I imagine, were going, God, can't we just have more Tobias?
Hey, again, I'm a straight guy, and I thought that too. I mean, I just thought
More Tobias to make the world go round.
Absolutely true, but also, like, admittedly, I want more Tobias in here.
Yeah, sure.
I
We
want
all can take
to be
something.
more of that.
Absolutely.
And again, isn't that the whole point of why you and I are sitting here? Is
100%.
leveraging what you see in front of you and trying it on and seeing, could I be that mature? Could I be that caring? Could I step aside from me long enough
I think
to have that kind of impact and connection with someone?
I think it just a very fascinating and incredible question you started off with, because it relates directly to this conversation. So.
Well, it just that's what this movie is, right?
It
I mean,
is.
it's an exploration of this. I'm looking at the next scene.
Please.
Okay, well, this is another perfect illustration, and this is about so Almut, quite a few years have passed, and Almut gets the diagnosis that she has ovarian cancer. And it's recommended that she get a hysterectomy because then the odds of reoccurrence are greatly diminished.
Yes.
That would also obviously wipe out, any opportunity to have kids if they were going to. And they did talk about, freezing eggs. But all of a sudden, look at where she is. All of a sudden, she's thinking, you know what? I think I do want to have a child with you.
Oh.
Yeah. And you know what I really loved? Which illustrated how on board she was, looking at the pregnancy test results. And then when it was positive, you saw her, she was genuinely excited.
She lit up like a Christmas tree.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. What a powerful moment.
What a great evolution. And I think, to me, at least my perception of how this went was those years with him, she just saw, wow, you are the real deal. You do love me.
Yeah.
And I think, look, I'm just making a guess, but I think that his love kind of helped it happen, and then hers grew.
Yeah.
And met his.
Yeah.
And I also love how once Ella, their daughter, was born, again, she was fully on board. There's one scene where she just looks back in the back seat at her.
And just admires her. Yeah.
Yeah, just love and honor.
It's powerful. Yeah, exactly. This is sort of, we saw Tobias's moment where he comes in during the baby shower for her friend and says his Jerry Maguire speech. And that's his moment of real love, where he finds true love in her and realizes how he feels about her. And I think this is her moment.
Yep.
This is her moment of saying,
that's right.
You made the sacrifice. Now I'm going to make the sacrifice.
And yes. And I think she also saw in time, how much did she actually sacrifice?
Right.
Because she kind of had it all.
Yeah, she loved it.
Yeah.
She enjoyed it.
She didn't have to give up her career.
No.
And she didn't.
No.
Which we're going to get to. This is where, as a viewer, it just really sucked me in, and it made me want to really follow to see where they go. I also didn't feel it was treacly sweet. I felt like, there was kindness. I was really moved by this.
Absolutely, me too. I couldn't agree
movie.
more.
Yeah.
I think it's, to me, this, and I don't want to, we won't get too far into it yet, but this movie as a whole was really refreshing.
Yeah.
I thought I've seen movies like this before. I've seen the cancer movies before. I've seen the love movies before, but this felt original. This felt genuine. It felt grounded.
It did to me too.
It was a refreshing view of everything. It was told in a really beautiful way.
It was.
That I could really connect with.
It was.
Yeah.
And it was, I think, it was interesting how, because I connected with it too, and it was interesting how they revealed that she was a competitive ice skater.
Yeah.
And that was probably 3/5 of the way into the movie, if not more. It's like, oh, that's a really interesting bit of information, and it's an important bit of information because it really tells you about how competitive, how driven she is.
Reveals a lot about her character.
It really does.
Yeah.
And I love that when that was revealed that, Tobias was like, really? But also I think he kind of loved it. I think he was, because he didn't know, right?
He was initially a little upset and shocked that she had kept it from him.
He was.
They had been
That's
together
right.
for a long time
Right.
at that point.
Yeah, and he didn't
but
know
then
that.
obviously she tells him, she's vulnerable and tells him that it's because it reminds me too much of my dad.
Right.
Who passed.
Right.
He's no longer with us.
Right.
So I kind of tried to bury it. And so that's why I didn't tell you. And how genuine that is.
Beautiful. And she did. And to me, that's a sign of a big heart too. And it's so painful for her. Look how effectively she buried it, that he'd been with her for years and he had no idea.
Yeah.
That's wow.
Yeah.
again,
That's hard to do.
Talk about determined. She's a determined. Almut is one determined force of nature.
She is a strong woman.
You know, a very strong woman, which brings me back to like when the relationship starts when she runs him over. And I was thinking
how it begins.
That's how it begins. And I was thinking, is that going to be how the rest of this, is she going to run him over throughout the rest of the movie? And I can see how some people would think she did. I don't think she did.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think she ran him over. I loved the scene in the hospital where he's in the hallway and he's in a chair and he just kind of comes to.
And he's like, I'm sorry, who are you?
Yeah.
They have like a conversation.
It was awesome.
And she's like, oh,
and
right.
she saw the ring, and so he didn't push back, because she said, why don't you and your wife come to the restaurant?
Right.
And I love how she reacted when he was alone, and
he said, it's just me.
It's just me. And she perked up, and they went home. And I loved how the next morning he's in her bed, what should I? It's not like he was so hammered and he didn't remember and woke up like, who are you? But he was just like,
I don't know what to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's like, I should leave. And something that made me laugh, I just thought that's so English, right? I should go. Oh yeah, you should go. Okay, right. I mean, there's so many that's just a very English thing to do. Yeah. And I love how she just said, why?
You got somewhere to be?
Yeah, exactly. What do you have to do? I mean, if you have to do stuff, okay.
He's like I got nothing.
Right.
Nothing to do, actually.
I love that. And you could tell they had a fun day. And their fun day obviously led to, a baby and everything. Right. But I loved that because it wasn't typical romance, whatever stuff. It was, it was like you could kind of put yourself in their positions too of like, what do I do here?
Yeah.
Because he didn't have that in his, it doesn't seem like he had that in his mind. I mean, he was very shy about how he went to the restaurant.
Sure.
But once they realized he was Weetabix, the Weetabix man.
Do you get free? They have a question. Exactly. Do you get free Weetabix?
I love that.
Yeah, it was so good.
Thinking like true restaurateurs.
Love it.
All right, let me look at the next one.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Here's the scene to me that was the real.
This is the kicker.
To me.
Oof, okay.
The tell. So, Almut now has been given the second diagnosis, and she, the conversation they have where she's thinking, well, I can go through the treatment, or we can have 6 months together that are in essence brilliant, proactive, fantastic months together. And I love the way they handled that. I thought it was a very, they're having an adult and very real conversation. They're trying to figure out how to navigate this. I think you could also tell that he was leaning towards like, let's get you better.
Yeah.
And she's saying, what if we go through this fight? It's the struggle, rather, of 12 months. I get better, and then I get re-diagnosed. And you could see where she's coming from, too.
Absolutely.
The scene was obviously you've seen the movie, right?
If you're
y'all, all y'all, because otherwise we're going to utterly decimate it if we haven't done it already for you.
Right.
But so she does get involved in the cooking competition. And she doesn't tell Tobias. And then Tobias asks her one day if she can pick up Ella after school.
Ooh.
And she's in the midst of her competition and she's not doing so well. And she has to pull her stuff together. I think she might have had to go throw up because she's really quite sick.
Right.
She comes back and she crushes it because she's that kind of a competitor. She could come through in the clutch and you could see it on the kind of coach's face.
Brilliant.
And then she comes home and then they cut to the little girl with her teacher, with an umbrella standing out in the rain, waiting for someone to come. Of course, no one's coming. Yeah. And then next we get to the scene, which was Almut comes home. It's dark. It's late. And she steps inside the doorway and starting to take her rain gear off. And Tobias says, where the hell were you? Oh, she has no clue why he's upset. she still hasn't remembered
Yeah.
that she didn't pick up Ella.
Yeah.
And he has to remind her. And she's like,
Yeah.
so she finally comes clean.
Mm-hmm.
And he got pretty quickly to the question of, you're practicing for this particular stage of this tournament. When's that?
Mm-hmm.
The exact weekend of the wedding that they have planned.
Yeah.
And you've been watching in the movie previously how he's excited about, he designed the wedding invitations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you could tell he was very excited about that. And he's angry.
No, right.
But,
you know,
and
understandably so.
understandably, when they faded out of that scene, they're sitting at the kitchen table and they're holding hands.
Mm-hmm.
And he's quiet. He's not yelling.
Mm.
He's really listening to her because she tells him that she wants to be remembered, and she wants to leave a really excellent example of living
Yeah.
for Ella.
Yeah.
Like, I leaned forward. I leaned over my skis, if you will. I went for it. With
Yeah.
the time that I had left,
I made the most of it.
I made the most of it.
Yeah.
And how he reacted. Then the next scene they show, if I remember this correctly,
Uh.
is Tobias walking outside to the trash with a box.
Mm.
And you watch him put the wedding invitations in the trash.
Yeah.
I need to ask you this question.
Please.
What I got off of Andrew Garfield was sadness. I did not get anger off of him.
Sure.
How did you see him putting those invitations in the trash?
I agree. I think that in that moment, there was situational depression. There sometimes is a level of sadness that comes to coming to terms with reality. I think he understood in that moment that I'm not going to fight for this. That this is, again, it comes back to the true love. It comes back to real love, where he, despite how betrayed he must have felt, despite how disappointed and upset, here's this person that he thought, he wants to marry, he wants to spend the rest of his life with, he wants to make this commitment before she, if and when she passes away. And yet, I'm willing to forgo that.
That's
so
right.
that I can give her what she needs and what she wants before she goes.
That's right. And to
That's
me,
powerful.
that's right. And to me in the movie, that's where I just thought, yes, he genuinely, truly loves her.
Absolutely.
Because after that, we see at the competition, go mom, the sign.
He's all in.
He's all in. He's absolutely all in.
I think that she makes a really great point. And I think that's why it was maybe, I don't want to say it was easy, but that's why he came around to it. I saw an interview with Bryan Cranston, or I read his book, actually. I think it was in his book. A Life in Parts. Fantastic book if you haven't read it.
What's it called?
A Life in Parts.
Okay.
I'll let you borrow it.
Okay, cool.
But Bryan Cranston tells a story about his father who had Huntington's disease.
Okay.
It's very brutal, very painful. And he said, unfortunately, a lot of my memory of my father is of him being curled up in a bed, visiting him in the hospital, and he couldn't. There's just the smell of the bleach in the room and the sounds that his father would make, That's his memory that he has of his father. I think what she's saying here in this moment is that I don't want that to be Ella's memory of me.
That's right. Absolutely, I agree.
I don't want that to be how she remembers her mother. I want her to remember her mother as somebody who was strong, who fought, who kept going, who persevered even still. What an impact that's going to have on that little girl.
That's right.
When she grows up. That's my mom.
Yeah.
And she says that, and I got emotional at that moment in the movie because she says, that's what I want her to say. Like, no, that's my mom. I'm proud of her.
Right.
How moving.
And what that will do for Ella in her life.
Absolutely.
To give her such a beautiful example of a woman, a human being, her own mother who just went for it.
Yeah.
Just went for it. She was really living her life. She wasn't doing what was typically expected. She wasn't going by anyone else's expectations at all. She was forging her own path.
And living life on her own terms.
Yeah, and with a lovely man.
And that's very powerful.
It is.
That
And
was one of my favorite scenes in the film.
yeah, mine too.
Yeah.
Because it said so much about both of them. And then that we got to see him later on at the competition completely on board. And then I want to talk about the last scene of the movie.
Yeah.
Boy.
Ooh, it's a tough one. It's a tough one, the last scene.
Several things at once. I'll pick one. Okay. So this is where, I looked at, because of how I felt about the progression of their relationship and how you got to see it build.
Yeah.
The last scene to me was so moving. And I thought it was, here's why. Here's what about it was lovely. Yes, it was, now they have a dog, and if you've seen the movie, you understand the significance of the dog.
Yeah.
Did you see how he was with her, with his daughter? To me, if you could be, look, and again, this is abstract to me, so I don't proclaim to be, I've done this, or this is how I would aspire to be if I were in this position. He put his love for Ella before his pain.
Yeah.
He was providing for her a good home, happiness.
Yeah.
And you got to look at his face, and I maybe I was imagining it, but he's there is pain in there.
He's mourning. Yeah.
He's mourning, but he's not going to be mourning in front of his daughter. He's not going to be maudlin in front of her. He's not going to be melodramatic. There's no self-pity.
Yes.
So his daughter is not going to be somehow getting through osmosis or observation someone who is wallowing.
Yeah. I think that's powerful.
It's extraordinary.
I think
it's beautiful.
It is. It is. It absolutely is. I see what you're saying there, to hide his pain in order to, show his daughter a loving and caring home.
Yeah.
This makes me think about my own life and my parents and the responsibility that you have as a parent. My parents, growing up, I never saw them fight.
Interesting.
Never one time throughout the entire relationship. They're separated now, divorced now, but throughout the entire relationship, I never saw them fight. And there was a reason for that. It's because they both decided as people,
not to show you that.
We're not going to fight in front of our children. If we disagree, if we think it's going to lead into an argument or a fight, we'll settle it later when the kids are in bed. We'll go down in the basement, we'll go in the garage, we'll go out back, and we'll settle it as adults. What a profound...
I give your parents a lot of credit.
That's one of I've said it to both of them. I think that's had a profound impact on me.
Absolutely.
As a partner. And as
well done, Mom and Dad.
I'll give them all the flowers. Just that little gesture, just that decision.
Yeah.
As Andrew made this decision with Ella. When you're a kid, you're so impressionable. It made a massive impact.
Yeah.
Imagine how different I would be as a human being had I watched my parents fight all the time growing up.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Kudos to them. Flowers to the parents.
Absolutely.
What a beautiful gesture to make to your kids. What Tobias did for Ella.
Agreed. There's actually an example for me in my life. It wasn't me personally, but one of my brothers married a woman who already had a son. Mm-hmm. And my now sister-in-law went through the divorce, and there was some time of them not really seeing each other. But in time, there was a period where my brother and his wife were living in the main house, and the ex-husband, the father of her son, was living in the guest house. And I'd go over and they'd all be in the kitchen or they'd all be doing stuff, and it was just no problem. It was good. And I later asked my sister-in-law, right? I commented to her. I made an observation that y'all are so good together.
Yeah.
And the son was growing up, and what a great, I say kid, he's over 40 now, but he's awesome.
Yeah.
And he grew up with, you could say, two dads, his biological dad and my brother. And they got along, and it was beautiful. And my sister-in-law made a very conscious decision to never say a bad word about his father to his son, to her son. Never, ever, ever say a bad thing, because that's his father.
Absolutely.
She wants him to love him. She wants him to have a good relationship with him. And she realized that if she were undermining that, she'd be doing her son a radical disservice. I have seen so many people out there in the world that, and I've had girlfriends and friends whose parents badmouth the other one, you know,
To no end, yeah.
and that has a terrible impact. So your parents, I give them, as you said, all the flowers.
Yeah.
And to my sister-in-law, I was so incredibly moved by that, because she wasn't going to let her own pain cloud her judgment when it comes to what's best for her son.
Yeah. It's
That's love.
Absolutely it is. That's real love. That's the sacrifice you're willing to make to put your child above you.
Yeah.
That they're more important. It's more important than the emotions that I'm feeling in this moment.
Yeah.
Or how I feel about this person.
Absolutely true.
I commend your sister-in-law and the ex-husband and your brother, because absolutely they did such a service to that kid that he grew up
Huge.
To see everyone get along.
Yeah.
That moves mountains for a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he himself now is married and has a lovely wife, and they have a good life. And
what happened.
yeah, good stuff happened.
Yeah, that's real love right there.
So should we use this, talking about all this goodness, should we have our bad guy break?
Let's do it. Let's
Then?
get into it.
Okay. So how would you describe the bad guy break? This is just, we're just going to throw out, like, when you originally came up with the bad guy break idea, what was behind that?
The original concept was I wanted to show what will happen if you don't learn this lesson. So if we don't take from this movie, this idea of real love, like, what might happen to you? What might your demise be?
Well then, okay. So that might segue into this. I don't know.
All right.
But Ryan and I take turns hosting the show, and we also take turns with coming up, with our outline.
Sure.
And so today, the bad guy break was my choice. This is a movie.
Okay.
From the year 2007.
Ooh, great year for movies.
The genre, I think you're right. The genre, which I just took straight from IMDb, was contemporary western / serial killer / thriller.
I know exactly what the movie is already.
Do you?
I love
Do I have to give you the lead actor then? Do you want me to give you that?
Go ahead, yeah.
Javier Bardem.
Oh, No Country for Old
Yes.
Men. Give it to me.
Come on.
I love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
For me too. And look, the guy was a bloody psychopath.
Without one of the best portrayed psychopaths in film and television.
Would you actually like to hear proof to back up what you just said?
Let's see.
According to a 2018 article in Business Insider, a group of psychiatrists studied 400 movies and identified 126 psychopathic characters. They chose Javier Bardem's portrayal of Anton, can't say his last name, I can't pronounce that, as the most clinically accurate portrayal of a psychopath. Whoa. And I feel so proud to have chosen him as my bad guy.
Wow.
Because they're saying he is the leading psychopath of all the movies they studied.
I wonder what he feels about that. I wonder if anybody's posed that question to him. Like,
how do you play a psychopath so well?
Yeah. What was his research like?
Yeah.
What was his?
Yeah, no kidding.
Truthfully, though, that's what an amazing fact there that you gave. That's awesome, because it really is true. I think the best portrayal I've ever seen, without question.
One of my favorite scenes in that movie was when he was in the store with the old guy.
Is
Heads or tails?
Call it.
And the old guy's like, I don't know what I'm calling. And we all know what he's
I don't
calling.
know what's
And
at
we're
stake.
squirming watching it. And, and the guy called it right.
Yeah.
And he leaves.
Yep.
And the old guy's like, what was that about? Having no idea that his life was that far away from being taken and snuffed out.
This is a bizarre sidebar, but there's an
Please.
insert shot in that scene of him putting the wrapper of I think it was peanuts he was eating on the table, and we watched the wrapper expand.
Yes.
What an absolute Coen Brothers.
Forgot about
what an
that.
absolutely brilliant shot that just kind of shows the unraveling of it. What a great bad guy break. That is phenomenal.
Oh.
Now how does that
Glad you enjoyed that.
how does that relate to this topic we're discussing here?
I just thought I tried to think of a character or a movie that had a real absence of that. I was trying to think of a void. I was just trying to think of
Somebody who is
just
complete
there's
opposite.
no connection,
Of Tobias, yeah.
no connection whatsoever. Just cold, black heart, however you want to put it.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that
And
one.
that's what came up
Yeah, that was
to
a
me,
great...
because what better way to learn things than contrast? If you don't have contrast, how are you really going to learn things?
You need it, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. And so if you haven't seen No Country for Old Men and you want a little contrast to We Live in Time,
If you want, yeah,
it will provide that.
What a movie, man! I could talk. We might have to do an episode on that.
Oh,
'cause
I'd be down.
I could talk to that about that movie for lengths.
But then, and we might have to just do Coen Brothers movies.
Listen,
Yeah.
let's rattle
Okay.
them off. Man. I'm ready. Let's do
Okay,
it.
we will definitely do that. So you've already touched on how. Do you have any other examples for yourself where you felt like you've seen a dynamic of what you thought was real love, or felt it, or any other examples for you in your life?
I think I didn't know real love until I met my current girlfriend.
Wow,
Yeah,
awesome.
I think that it's relating to this. It's the sacrifices. I know we talked about this on a previous episode that we did, but we have very different worldviews, my girlfriend and I. It couldn't be polar opposite of each other. She's a very religious person, very
Okay.
Christian. I'm very not.
Okay.
And so that was something that we discussed at length
I bet.
as Andrew, or damn it,
Tobias.
as Tobias. Love you, Andrew. As Tobias did at length in this film, we wanted to have that difficult conversation early on.
Okay.
And so that's something that prior to us being officially together as a couple,
Yeah.
we talked about time and time and time and time again. And we both really struggled and had a difficult time with,
Wow.
can we make this work?
Yeah.
Despite our massive difference. It's not like we had different music tastes. Sure,
Right.
that you can, whatever. You listen to yours, I'll listen to mine, whatever. Maybe we'll have some crossover. That's small.
Right.
Your worldview is
Right.
massive.
It is.
How you raise your
Agreed.
children, what do you think happens after death? These are massive things.
Colors how you do things throughout your day.
Your morals, your values.
That's right.
And so we both had to make the conscious decision and sacrifice to choose each other. And that, no, you're worth it. I can make the sacrifices. I can sacrifice that part of myself and meet you halfway and compromise because you're worth it. That's love.
Right on.
That's real love.
Good for you, man. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. And never use the sacrifice as leverage.
Absolutely. 100%.
That's a foul.
I flip this around on you.
Yeah.
Do you think that you have experienced this?
From others, I absolutely have.
Okay.
One of the first things that came to mind thinking about that was same brother I was just telling you about.
Okay.
Many moons ago, before you were on the planet, I lived in London for a year. After I graduated from college, I moved to London.
Love
with,
that.
With a girlfriend at the time.
Okay.
And I'd had a full-time job, and then I quit because I'm in London, man. You know, there was a lot behind that. But I got a part-time job. My my girlfriend at the time was going to London School of Economics, and I was there so much on campus that they started to think I was a student there. And I got a job at the restaurant, at the cafe.
Okay. Yeah.
And you had to be a student. And actually, I was able to get a student body card, which is funny.
That's hilarious.
So
I love
Jean-Claude hired me. So I had a part-time job, which was great, but it just wasn't enough money. And London was expensive even back then.
Yeah.
So I wrote my oldest brother a letter about my car, which was parked out in front of his house. And I said, would you do me a massive solid and sell the car and send me the money? So a little time passes and he sends me the money. I was like, wow, he got a good bit for that.
Yeah, sure.
And that really helped. That really made a big impact in my life in London. It made a real difference.
Sure.
So I was gone for a year. I don't know. That was probably 6 months in or something. So I come back and going down to see my brother. I was staying with my parents, and I drive down with my parents.
I know where this is going.
We come around the corner, and there's my car parked in front, and it's clean, and it's definitely not sold.
Wow. Man. What a guy. What a guy your brother is.
That's love.
That's love right there. That's real love. That is. Wow. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That's such a beautiful story.
Isn't that great?
I was hoping that's where it was going to go.
that is where it went. And I just...
Amazing gesture of love to do that for someone. And the whole time you thought it was, oh, wow, he sold the car, got a good note.
Yeah.
And you were expecting to come home and the car's gone.
Yeah, of course. And I was just like, well...
What did you feel in that moment when you came around the corner and saw the car?
Oh, that's my brother. There are some people that are just kind of bursting with love, and he's one of them.
Wow.
So to me, I didn't expect it at all. I was completely surprised when I came around the corner and saw that.
Imagine.
But it was also absolutely in character for him. Massive hats off.
Hats off to your brother.
So it wasn't surprising. It's not like, oh my God, I can't believe he did that. It was like, yeah, that's
my brother.
That's my brother.
Wow.
Yeah.
Profound. What a profound point.
Yeah. And yeah, I've been fortunate. I've known some really extraordinary people who've been really kind to me and shown me a lot of love. I feel very fortunate in that sense.
Absolutely agree.
And I think, I don't know, I was telling Ryan before we did this that I looked at some people's reviews, of this movie on IMDb, and haters will hate, and I was just really taken by, and I get it, things are gonna hit you. Like, I thought the soundtrack was good because it didn't interfere. I thought it was appropriate. It kind of was in sync with how I was feeling about scenes. Sure. And I heard people like, the soundtrack was terrible, and it's like I'm appreciative of a movie like this for both of us, because I guess with the way we're wired and the way we see things, it really struck a chord.
Yeah.
And I love to be moved like that.
It's one of my favorite things.
I did a few times, like I had my hoodie and it's like I'm sitting here sobbing in the cinema. I had to wait a little while before I could, walk out.
Sure.
But I love that. And isn't that why we see things like this? Isn't that why we go to movies like this, to be really moved? So I guess that's going to segue into my recommendation.
Oh, please. I love it. That's an amazing segue.
So it's a classic movie, and again, the people have, but it's, The Notebook.
Oh,
I was really moved by that.
I can see how you chose that because of how it relates to this film.
Yeah,
especially the ending, which I don't want to spoil. Obviously, if you haven't seen the movie, this is our recommendation, so we don't want to spoil anything. Go see it. Go watch it. I believe it's on HBO.
Yeah. I believe it is
HBO
too.
Max. If you have that, go watch it. But the ending is really poignant in terms of showing real love.
It is. And that's what made me think of that movie. and also two leads, four leads, who were incredibly committed and on board
Absolutely.
and made it real.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And that's the genius of this art form.
Absolutely. We're able to see people experience things, and hopefully, it's the whole point of the show,
Right.
gain something from that,
That's right.
from what we watch, rather than just being entertained, rather
Yeah.
than just being moved, rather than just being, you know, being, I don't know, educated
Yeah, exactly.
and
yeah.
taught and learned something from what we watch.
Yep.
I think that that's at its best what art can do for us.
I couldn't agree more. You don't have to personally experience these things necessarily,
Sure.
right? You can see what they go through, and you can put yourself to the best of your ability in their shoes, and hopefully leverage something. And again, like you're saying, that's the whole reason why you and I are sitting here doing this right now.
Absolutely.
And
Agreed.
I think we've covered a
think that
good
covers it.
bit. Yeah.
I want to pose a question to the listeners, to the viewers.
Funny, I was thinking the same thing. Go for it.
Think about a time or an instance in your own life where you've felt that. You've felt that real love. And I hope that everyone listening, everyone watching is able to. What a tragedy it would be if, and I know that it exists, people haven't felt that. So
Agreed.
back to what you said, I feel very, 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 very fortunate to have experienced that in different ways in my life.
Yeah, we both are.
So if you think about it.
The last thing I'll pose is, when can you give it? When can you be that? When can you be that that mature and that caring, where the person you love and what they want comes first?
Put it above yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautifully put.
Should we call it a wrap?
We should call it a wrap. Remember. Actually, first, thank you so much for being here with us. Thanks for listening.
Thanks
for watching. We really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. I loved this episode.
Me too.
And I look forward to many more. Take a step back. Take a look at your own life. You're the main character of your own life. Beyond the frame might lie the answers that you've been looking for. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.